Biopics. Whether they thrill you, bore you, or you're a teacher who likes using them as a convenient crutch, it's always fun to spot the real people being depicted show up in little cameos in your favorite movies. Today, I'd like to delve into some of the very best cameos of this very, very specific variety. Some are insanely obvious, some play an important role in the narrative, and some you may have missed for very good reason. In fact, there's two I still can't figure out.
Do you believe all this crap?
Anywho, let's play Spot the Less Famous Famous Person. Since David Fincher released his latest film, Mank, earlier this month, why not start off with a subtle cameo you might have missed in his masterpiece, Zodiac? It's a quick one, like Roadrunner quick, but while Dermot Mulroney and Bruce Banner here are talking in the stairwell, boom, there it is. What, did you miss it? That cute couple walking by? That's Bryan C. Hartnell and his wife. Bryan was one of these Zodiac survivors. He was stabbed in the back 5 times and escaped with his life, but his girlfriend at the time, Cecilia Ann Shepard, wasn't so lucky. Man, I really started this one out on a bummer, huh? The Pursuit of Happyness is based on the true story of Chris Gardner, an inspirational figure who beat homelessness while raising his son and wound up a highly successful stockbroker. Will Smith ended up nominated for an Oscar and a Golden Globe for Best Actor, and the movie got pretty favorable reviews. Gardner himself shows up at the end, walking by Will Smith's version of, well, himself. Dude's rocking that suit too, even Will notices. Oh yeah. Anyway, Chris Gardner, cool dude. Let's talk criminals. A slightly more controversial cameo, the notorious con man Jordan Belfort shows up at the end of The Wolf of Wall Street to introduce Leonardo DiCaprio, playing Jordan Belfort after his stint in prison. Ooh, look, more DiCaprio. In The Basketball Diaries, author Jim Carroll makes a brief appearance as a drug dealer who talks with Leo's Jim in a drug den. A lot of the cameos in this list are pretty low on the old dialogue department, but Carroll actually gets a whole dang monologue. And it's pretty good. I mean, it's depressing, and he starts prepping heroin as soon as he's done, but good acting chops. Let's go to a more inspirational and, for some, insufferably long story, The Right Stuff. The true story of the first human flight into outer space, The Right Stuff features fictional representations of a whole bunch of real historical figures, including Chuck Yeager, as played by Sam Shepard.
Who?
Oh, right. Yeager was a test pilot and a U.S. Air Force officer who, in 1947, was the first man to break the sound barrier in level flight, while piloting a plane adorably named Glamorous Glennis. Okay, it was the X-1, but its name was Glamorous Glennis, and that's funny to me. Anyway, the real Chuck Yeager shows up as Fred, the bartender who doesn't take kindly to some coke-drinking narc downplaying his younger self from across the room.
Hey, y'all want to drink whiskey?
It's kind of an awkward moment when you don't know who this old dude is, but if you do, it's a pretty hilarious interaction. Just take the whiskey, you jerk. Meanwhile, over in Conspiracy Land, famed attorney / conspiracy theorist / guy eventually played by Kevin Costner, Jim Garrison, shows up in JFK, Oliver Stone's less than historically accurate film about the JFK assassination plot, as Supreme Court Justice Earl Warren, who in real life didn't take too kindly to good old Jim. Speaking of the real people acting as judges in movies about their lives subgenre, the infamous hustler publisher Larry Flynt shows up in The People vs. Larry Flynt as a judge at his own trial, with Woody Harrelson portraying him. Judge W.M. Morrissey here doesn't quite share Larry's opinions though, and comes off as combative and hostile toward Larry's stance, presumably in a direct homage to how he felt he was being treated in these cases.
I was not surprised by the verdict at all. We had a stupid judge.
Spielberg's biopic of con artist Frank Abagnale Jr. cast Leonardo DiCaprio in the role. The real Frank Abagnale Jr. shows up in a surreal moment during his arrest in Catch Me If You Can, as the arresting officer. And he's French. I guess when you spend most of your career being other people, it just naturally fits that you could just be a French cop.
Oh, would you like to hear me tell a joke?
Passing the torch does come in less confrontational ways, as seen in Ron Howard's Apollo 13, when real astronaut Jim Lovell shakes Tom Hanks' hand at the end of the film, right after that whole problem that Houston had to worry about or whatever. Hanks' turn portraying Lovell in the film has of course gone down as one of the most memorable performances of his career. And Lovell seems to have approved after the fact as well, since he wound up speaking in a tribute to Tom Hanks at the actor's AFI Lifetime Achievement Award ceremony. Just look at how happy Tom is. Oh, it's adorable. He's is he gonna cry? Cry, Tom. In Erin Brokovich, Julia Roberts' turn as the titular character is served in a diner by, oh hey, the real Erin Brokovich. The famed political activist even boasts a name tag with the name Julia R. I see you, movie. I see what you did there. Terry Gilliam's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is a trippy flick, and as such, it deserves a trippy cameo for its author, gonzo journalist Hunter S. Thompson. The writer appears briefly as Johnny Depp's Raoul Duke, a pseudonym for Thompson, who hallucinates seeing his future self during a pretty sick trip.
But nobody should be asked to handle this trip.
Next up, Schindler's List. This one's a bit of a cheat, but also, I probably shouldn't say Schindler's List in such a happy-go-lucky way. Let's see. This one's a bit of a cheat, but also a super powerful coda to Spielberg's lauded Holocaust drama. The film tells the story of Oskar Schindler, a Nazi factory owner who employed over 1,000 Jews during the Holocaust in order to save them from the horrors of the Nazi concentration camps. In the end, we see a line of actual Holocaust survivors helped by the real Oskar Schindler, and they all visit his grave to pay respects to the man who saved 1,200 Jews during World War II. Okay, can I go back to being funny now? Speaking of historic figures, politician and activist Harvey Milk got a great biopic in 2008 with Sean Penn in the lead. Cleve Jones, Harvey Milk's real-life friend and famed LGBTQ rights activist, played in film by Emil Hirsch, shows up briefly in this scene. He's supposedly playing activist Don Amador, but sorry, I don't see the resemblance. Returning to Oliver Stone biopics, Edward Snowden shows up in, Snowden. The faux Snowden transforms into the real Snowden in the finale of Oliver Stone's biopic in what was reportedly a very challenging shoot to schedule. Man, I bet the US really wanted to get in on that one. According to Stone, Mr. Snowden is not exactly a natural actor either, which is surprising considering how well he delivers his final speech. Per Stone, we did 9 takes, I believe, at least, on several angles. He talks so well in interviews, but it's so hard for him to become a third person. We got there eventually, but it was a painful day. In another instance of real dude playing his actual dudeness, United States Federal Aviation Administration National Operations Manager Ben Sliney, who, and you really can't make this up, had his first day on the job on September 11th, 2001, plays himself in Paul Greengrass's United 93. That's right, the actual Ben Sliney plays Ben Sliney in the 2006 movie based on the 2001 incident in which he was a major component. And he ain't bad. Famed music promoter Tony Wilson appears in the film 24-Hour Party People opposite the guy playing him, famed comedian Steve Coogan. Tony Wilson plays the studio director for Wheel of Fortune, which...
Welcome to the Wheel of Fortune. There it is, the wheel.
Something that did not actually happen. 24-Hour Party People also features cameos from a ton of notable musicians from the Manchester music scene. We even get a fun cameo from Howard Devoto as himself, playing a janitor, breaking the fourth wall to give his input.
I definitely don't remember this happening.
You're right, Tony. Yeah, I've just seen God.
The broiest arms dealer of all time, David Packouz, shows up as a musician in Todd Phillips' War Dogs, in which he's portrayed by Miles Teller. Packouz is a musician in real life as well, which certainly sounds better than international arms dealer. I think that sounds better. In Martin Scorsese's Casino, Robert De Niro plays Frank Cullotta, a real mobster working in Las Vegas in the 70s and 80s. He turned into government witness in 1982 and passed away in August 2020, sadly due to complications from COVID-19. In Casino, Frank shows up as a hitman. Right there, bang bang, and he's gone. He was also a technical advisor on the film, presumably to show Joe Pesci the best way to brutally murder another human being with a pin. Back to Spielberg land, eagle-eyed viewers might spot author J.G. Ballard as a party guest in the big screen adaptation Empire of the Sun. I'm honestly not sure which one he's supposed to be. If you know where he is in the scene, please point it out below. I could not figure it out at all, because I am bad at my job. Speaking of cameos in Spielberg movies that I can't quite place and continue to play Where's Waldo with to this day, Kenneth Crone shows up as a deputy in Steven Spielberg's 1974 crime flick, The Sugarland Express. Crone was kidnapped by the husband and wife outlaws Robert Dent and Ela Faye Holliday, who in the film are portrayed by Goldie Hawn and William Atherton under fictionalized names. Anyway, I'm sure he's in here, he even gets a credit, but there's so many cops in this thing, you know? So many cops. He's one of them. Anyway, back to cameos that I actually, could recognize. Zack Knight, the brother of pro wrestler Paige, shows up in Fighting With My Family, briefly, to give the actor playing him, Jack Loudon, a piece of his mind.
Piss off, dickhead.
This next one was news to me. The real Maria Von Trapp shows up in The Sound of Music. See those women-like blobs right there? Yep, that's her, along with daughter Rosemary and one of the original Von Trapp children. Neat! The hills are alive with the sound of cameos. Oh, that's terrible. Oh my god, cut that. In Man on the Moon, Andy Kaufman collaborator Bob Zmuda is played by Paul Giamatti. The real Zmuda shows up as producer Jack Berners, who gets into a bit of fisticuffs with Jim Carrey's Kaufman on the set of Fridays. And knowing how Jim Carrey acted on the set of the film in which he plays Kaufman on the set of Fridays, I don't blame the guy. I'd probably punch him in the face too. Bob was an important part of Kaufman's career and even took on the mantle of Tony Clifton after Kaufman's death, a role he had been placed in before to help in the illusion of Clifton being a separate individual. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I highly recommend checking out Kaufman's work or, just watch Man on the Moon. It's great. In fact, it's one of my favorite movies. So, let's mosey on over to another one of my favorites.
For Christ's sakes, I'm beat. I'm gonna go. All right, one drink.
The French Connection is simultaneously one of the best crime films ever made and one of the best true stories ever put to celluloid. Sure, it's highly fictionalized, but man, it's so darn cool! Our main characters, Jimmy Popeye Doyle and Buddy Cloudy Russo, are portrayed by Gene Hackman and Roy Scheider. Their real-life counterparts, Eddie Egan and Sonny Grosso, show up in the film. Egan plays Simonson, supervisor to Hackman, and so he basically plays his own boss.
A good cop, basically a good cop. He's got good punches every once in a while.
Grosso, meanwhile, plays federal agent Clyde Klein. Oh, and also there's a super sick car chase, and I'd like to think that plays itself in the movie as well. That's just my head canon. All right, I'm so lonely.
He's yours, darling?
Finally, we have to end with perhaps the most easy to spot cameo of all time.
Hi, doggy. You're my favorite customer. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Tommy Wiseau in The Disaster Artist, the James Franco flick based on the book of the same name, which recounts the making of cult classic The Room. You know the one.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Anyway, Tommy shows up, appropriately enough, in a bizarre cameo wherein he tries to socialize with himself. It's one of those cameos that goes just a little too far, and one of the few times in the film that just takes the audience right out of it. Pure cringe by a filmmaker who made his career out of, well, cringe. Luckily, it's a mid-credits scene, so you might have missed this one. So, I don't know. Go check it out, guy. And that's it for our list. Of course, we could have gone on. Margaret Keane and Big Eyes, author James Jones and Some Came Running, Danny Wallace and Yes Man, not to mention a whole bunch of TV cameos. But hey, 25 is just a fun number. Later, Screen Ranters.